Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Diversity Program. I'm Louise Bergerson. I'm a member of the Anti-Bias Task Force, which is made up of concerned citizens appointed annually by the town board. We serve as a community resource that addresses alleged bias-related incidents or issues. We advocate for the victims and then we refer them to the appropriate agency. If you'd like more information about this, please look on the East Hampton Town website for the Anti-Bias Task Force. This diversity series helps fulfill one of the missions of the Anti-Bias Task Force to promote diversity, unity, and understanding in our town. Today, we'd like to focus on our local food pantries. As all of you know, food insecurity inordinately affects marginalized populations already challenged in multiple ways. We'd like to examine how our community has responded to this challenge. I'd like to introduce our panel. From the Springs Food Pantry, Holly Reichart-Wheaton, Alice Houseknecht from the Montauk Food Pantry, and Russ Calemmo from the East Hampton Food Pantry. Let's begin with some background information, a little bit of the history of your food pantry, and then the changes that you've seen occurring over the last year as the food insecurity has increased in our community. Holly, why don't you start? About a 2-minute limit for each of you.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. I am the chairperson of the Springs Food Pantry. The pantry actually started in 1992 by a few congregants of the Springs Community Presbyterian Church. My mom, Betty Reichart, was one of them. They looked around the congregation one day, saw there was a need, and they just got together and went door to door, collected food, and then packaged it up and dispersed it to the fishermen and farmers who needed it. I joined the pantry in 1998 when I came back from a 12-year job stint in Chicago. And my mom reached out to me and said, I don't know where we're going to get the money to pay for food because we now have to outsource it. The needs have started to grow and we need to buy our food. So I got involved, and from there it kind of started to grow and grow and grow. And then, of course, COVID happened. We are a mission of the Springs Presbyterian Church, but we do have our own 501c3 not-for-profit designation. And prior to COVID, we had established a very successful choice program where we were allowing the recipients to choose, and we were heading it more toward a nutritional basis. So instead of white rice, we were offering whole grain or brown rice. We were offering 1% or 2% milk versus whole, and we were doing mostly fresh product. So it was fresh produce, fresh fruit, and limiting our canned product because of the sodium contents, etc. We were feeding about 55 families a week, which amounted to about 135 to 195 people, depending upon the season. And then COVID came, and things changed dramatically. We had to change the protocols, changed us back to a pre-bagging system, so no more choice. Although we do ask our recipients from time to time through a survey what they want, what they prefer, what they need. We went to pre-packed bags, as I said, and we only allow now one recipient at a time into our building. Of course, all of our doors and our windows are open. Everybody's masked. We do our safety protocols, temperature checks, etc. But within a month after COVID shut down, basically East Hampton, we increased 350%. I just got the numbers in for yesterday. We fed 235 families and 889 people.
Wow.
Pre-COVID, we were giving 3 meals for 3 days, or 9 meals to every recipient. And after COVID hit, we saw that that was not enough. So we increased that to 5 days of food at 3 meals a day. So we're giving them 15 meals for every recipient. And that's every household member.
All right. Okay, next, Alice.
Am I up now?
Sure, Russ, you go.
Oh, sure. No, I thought Alice. Alice, go ahead.
Either way. Okay, Alice, go on.
Okay, thanks so much for inviting me. And the Montauk Food Pantry was formed a little more than 30 years ago Some women that many of you might recognize, namely Fran Ecker, Shelley Engstrom, and Inez Fox, they were all associated with the Montauk School. And they realized that a lot of the children who came to school didn't have adequate lunches. Montauk does not have a cafeteria. Children have to sit at their desks. It's always been that way. They sit at their desks and they eat. They provide their own lunch. So as a result, three of them got together and they went to the Montauk Community Church and asked if they could use some space there. And the church provided that. And then they found various ways of raising money, right down to knitting Afghans and selling chances on Afghans. So that's how the Montauk Food Pantry got off to its start. After a while, it was moved to a building on the Catholic Church property, which used to be the rectory for the nuns. That was a very small building. That's when I first started there, which was 18 years ago. And we were literally stepping on each other's toes because it was just one tiny room. And fortunately then, when the church finished the renovation on their main building, they could move their masses from the basement of their St. Therese Parish Center over to the actual church. So it freed up the whole basement of the St. Therese Parish Center. So we were able to move in there, and that was in 2012. So that space is magnificent. There's a kitchen, there's a huge room that is sectioned off from the rest of the room. That's what we used to use primarily before COVID. Since COVID, we've actually expanded into just about the entire basement area. And as Holly said, pre-COVID, we were doing approximately 100 families. And then immediately after the shutdown, it increased to about 300 families. And the highest amount we ever did was during this summer, which was close to 400 families. So we went from 100 families to almost 400 families, almost quadrupling in that short span of like about 4 months since March until September. Since then, though, we have leveled off. And one of the reasons is Montauk, being such a seasonal town, employs all the service workers in the restaurants, the hotels, landscaping. So once these jobs end, which is normally around October, a little after Columbus Day, these workers can't afford to stay here because of high rents and just the high cost of living. So what I've discovered is many of our families went back to Riverhead to live with other family members. They went back to Queens, or in some cases, they went back to Central America or Jamaica or wherever they were from. So we have, right now, we're doing approximately 150 families, which is a far cry from what we were doing in the spring and the summer. However, it's still a challenge, and we're keeping up with it.
Wow. Russ, how about you?
Well, first of all, again, thank you for the invitation, and I certainly salute Holly and Alice for the work that they do. Keep in mind, these folks are volunteers, and I know what they do, because we do exactly the same. It's extremely, extremely difficult, and I salute these volunteers pretty much every day. But interestingly enough, we started way back, faith-orientated in a community church, typical. And from there, we just grew. We grew based on the fact is we were involved with different organizations here in East Hampton. We'll say specifically the volunteers we got from the Lions Club. They helped out and so forth and so on. And then we developed into a 501(c)(3) corporation, yada, 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 typical of everything that pretty much what we do. It was a growing process for some time, but however, we've been able to secure refrigeration, storage, and a small little teeny office that we work out of. We are here in East Hampton. We're in the back of the buildings, an old building in the back of the town, which works out pretty good for us. We don't allow anyone in the building at all other than the volunteers that are there. We have very, very strict protocol. We have people who come in once a week to wash the place down, so to speak, if that be the term. Everybody has masks. We got lights and all that kind of stuff. But it's a very important factor, because all you need is really one person, and all of a sudden you got a big issue. So I certainly are very prone to that COVID issue. The thing is too, we averaged sometime back around, I would say 200 to 250 families, individuals rather, a week. Now we're up to almost 600. That's a fact. We have a program that we have in place. It's called Pantry Soft. And everybody who comes to the food pantry is registered, how many in a family, yada, yada, yada. So we could put those statistics into our database. And then when we apply for grants, whether it be Island Harvest or other arenas, we use that to justify how many people we're feeding. We also have a satellite in Amagansett, which that we do certainly once a week there. And we also, ironically, we established a food pantry in the high school, where we have a small room there that we use for the students, whatever their requirements are, basically simple, basic needs, toiletries, things of that nature, maybe, some candy bars or whatever. I don't know too much about that. When Miss Vicki Littman, she's our chairman, she pretty much runs that little arena in there, But anyway, as far as COVID, yeah, it has increased tremendously. But however, we were fortunate. We've had outside resources. We had a gentleman who had come in who was available to us to help us secure food. We weren't even getting food because there were no truck deliveries. So we had local people, come and help us out to bring the food into our food pantry and accordingly and disseminate accordingly. And it worked out very, very well, very well. We've had some celebrities. I'm sure Holly and Alice know of these folks. They were extremely instrumental in helping us out. I mean, they literally contributed thousands and thousands of dollars of food product, and whether it be eggs or just mostly boxed food or canned food, they were there. Now, our food pantry, we run it a little bit different. It's like not a supermarket, but however, everything is pre-packaged for the family, knowing the family, based on their statistics, rather. They have a card. We scan the card. The card tells us automatically who that person is, how many in the family, yada, yada, yada. And it works out because it goes really fast. And we have volunteers who bring literally the food product to the car and individuals. And then we're hooked up with the library. We put books for the kids. We throw those in the car, all free. And it's working out pretty good. It really is. And I'm glad that I'm involved with it. I've been there almost 15 years at least. And it's a long process. It's not easy. And Holly and Alice, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a lot of work, but I'm very proud to be part of our little assemble here.
That was actually part of the next question, so I'm glad you started it. There's been a great increase in need, and the community has responded in so many different ways. So you've described some of them. Also, love to share, where do your volunteers come from? Who are they? Aside from the core group that you were in the beginning, I'm sure there are many more people now too. So tell us more about how your organization attracts volunteers and who they are.
Russ,
why don't you start, Alice?
Sure. Well, of course, we did have our core group of volunteers pre-COVID. And after the shutdown, people were literally calling or going online to our website and asking if they could come and volunteer. So it was a little bit tricky because we didn't want to just open the floodgates and allow anybody to come in because, as Russ stated, we do not allow anyone inside the food pantry. All of our food is distributed outdoors. So to bring in a whole influx of new people and not really knowing much about COVID back in March when it first occurred, we were very careful. So actually, I would just ask people a little bit about their background, like who they worked with, would they be available on certain days, and just kind of picked that way. And once the volunteers came in and made a commitment, we just stuck with that same group. We have about 30 volunteers altogether, enough so that if, certain weeks people can't be there, that's fine. We can still manage without them. But that was one of the heartwarming revelations about COVID, the amount of people that were reaching out, not to just donate, which we really depended on 100%, but also to put their time and their physical strength into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you also wanted to know the difference, like how the community responded other than just through volunteers.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I have to mention a few really unique ways. I'm going to start with a couple of children in our community. There was an 8-year-old girl who just decided to make little plastic bracelets and sell them to her aunts and uncles and friends, and raised $500 that way. There was another little girl who made cookies and sold them to her parents' customers. There was a fellow who did a winter solstice recently surfing in Ditch Plains. He stayed in the water for the entire daylight hours from whatever it was, 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., over 9 hours. And on the bottom of his surfboard was the word FOOD. So he brought awareness. We've had his picture like online and in the newspaper. So we've had a lot of return on that. We also had, of course, the Montauk School. When this first happened, they put up a big sign, one of those plywood signs as you drive into town that Montauk is so famous for. And it said, need help? Know someone who needs help? Montauk Food Pantry. And the social workers there at the Montauk School funneled all the calls. And then they would give me the information and I would contact the people.
Wow.
We also had a lot of celebrities who gave of their funding, private foundations. Another fellow did a virtual walk and run, and he worked for the New York City Marathon. So he was able to do all of this amazing stuff online where he could put people's times down and where they ran or walked. And there was a local photographer who put one of his pictures on Instagram and sold the picture for an amazing amount of money. So many generous individuals, the Montauk Library, East End businesses. Also, I know that Holly and Russ will recognize these names. The East End Foundation and Clamshell Foundation combined their efforts, and they did an amazing ad campaign and raised literally, multiple thousands of dollars for each one of the local food pantries, including Sag Harbor. Another group who did that was AFTE, AFTE, all for the East End. And that is a Long Island community foundation comprised of lots of different people who donate money, get other people to donate money. They raised $1 million the first part of COVID, and now they're into their second $1 million campaign. So we are really grateful, as I know Holly and Russ are too, to the many community organizations, individuals, civic groups, and children who have helped.
And in so many different ways too, and each more imaginative than the next.
Yes.
Yeah. Holly, do you have anything you would like to add about that?
No, I think Alice said it. Like her, we're a totally volunteer-run operation. No one's paid, so it's we had to call upon our volunteers to help, and they just, the core group were elderly. So when COVID hit, they stepped away. We wouldn't let them come back.
Oh wow!
But COVID brought some young professionals to our area that they all wanted to be kept busy. And, like Alice, we interviewed them a little bit, found out their backgrounds. We have a roster of about 70 volunteers. So we filter them in and out, so they're all not there, like,
Every time.
they might come 1 week and 3 weeks later they're there, so we can kind of keep a beat on what's happening with the whole COVID situation. Interesting enough, it takes about 45 volunteers for us to get our operation done, through the whole distribution process, because we run it, 6 days a week. There's deliveries, there's ordering, there's packing, there's even police control. I mean, we have volunteers out on the parking lot along with the East Hampton Town Police to help us on Wednesdays control the situation. But yeah, the community's been great. They really have been wonderful. The cookie bake sales of the kids, the lemonade stands that they had this summer, all those things add up, and it's just puts a smile on your face when you see everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to help.
What happens when your clients don't speak English?
Our volunteers are bilingual. The person who actually does our registration speaks 7 languages.
All right.
So, yeah, she was a find.
Okay. All right, so let's go on to the next question then. What kind of donations do you prefer or do you accept? Russ, why don't you start there and then we'll go around.
Well, first of all, ditto, Alice and Holly, times 10. I'm telling you, they're absolutely correct. Volunteers are really the backbone of any community actions specific food pantries. Like they said, we got triple of volunteers, but we have a protocol and we do have our core, and but we rotate the cores constantly, so everyone gets a break, so to speak. But as far as our money comes in, it's strictly donation from different institutions and grants and locals, lots of locals, and that's pretty much the way it works. I mean, we applied for a grant after they sent us some money. Quite a few other groups, whether it be the Lions or somebody else, they're there. And we've gotten checks for $5 and we got checks for $200. So, it all goes to the one place, and it's just going right back into the community, which I'm very proud of. And it's a hard thing to keep track of a lot of things, such as the money comes in, goes out, this guy gets paid, that guy gets paid. So we have a volunteer that is involved with that with us to help us do that.
Keep track of your books. And
yeah, it's very important because the point is, first of all, you don't want to run out of money, so you have to be able to disseminate different monies to different areas. That's the most important for us.
Wow. Okay, and Holly?
Yeah, the donations, like Russ and Alice said, we're generous.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful. I mean, between AFD, which was great, the Clamshell Foundation, and they had John Madiri take photographs and they were all promoted. It was just such a wonderful thing that was put together for our benefit. The de Kooning Foundation has come through, and as a local, that was that really hit my heart because he was a Springs resident. In fact, he lived basically in our backyard. The Louder Foundation, the Leslie Alexander Foundation, lots of civic groups came through, the businesses, the individuals. It's phenomenal. It really is a nice thing to see, the community coming together.
I remember hearing something about the John Bon Jovi.
Oh, he saved us. He actually saved me. Like Russ, we couldn't get food product. Donations were coming in, we couldn't get the product. We were using 3 purveyors, and I had asked for 100 dozen eggs or 200 dozen eggs, and I'd get 60. John Bon Jovi came in, and Ronald Webb Builder actually. That's the guy. That's the guy. He lent us a dump truck and 3 guys, and he would go every week up with me to the Soul Kitchen, and we'd load up the dump truck and come on back. He got us through. He helped us figure out all the logistics of how it's going to happen, and it was wonderful. It was really, really good. I mean, we get food product now from 7 purveyors, and we order from Long Island Cares, which is another food bank. But because we're so far out on the end of the island, that the quantities are very limited. We don't get what we order. I mean, I might order 46 cases of black bean, and I get 12. So
And
know,
you don't know until it gets there.
Absolutely.
But that,
Okay, well then let's, is there any other open ideas, things not yet addressed or things you perceive will be future challenges? 1 minute to talk about that before we close. Maybe Alice, you start?
Sure. I just want to put in another plug for John Bon Jovi also, because as Holly said, we were all facing the same dilemma. Our food bank couldn't cope. The food bank had 500 different food pantries to service, and you can imagine they all went from, this number to quadruple that number in a matter of weeks. So there was no way they could provide. So Bon Jovi supplied us every single week for 4 straight months. And as Holly mentioned, the fellow who donated the trucks, McCoy School Bus Company donated a school bus. And our lovely bus driver, he would go up every single week with his son, and he would wait online there and bring all the food out to Montauk. Yeah.
Okay, I have to
Sorry.
close then. That's okay. So we all know that the East End is a place where the wealthy and famous live and play. It's really important to realize that this is the same geographic location where there's a major food situation of food insecurity. So you've helped open our eyes to the many in need, and also how the community has responded, which is so heartwarming. So we're grateful to you and to everyone involved with you. Thanks, panel, Holly, Russ, Alice, for representing your food pantry and for your continuing commitment. And we're going to put up on the screen some contact information. So if you want to reach out to these food pantries and support your community, please feel free to make those calls. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and stay healthy and stay safe.